Well, how are you? I am Sergia. This is going to be the Lupit Instagram live interviews. Today we're going to be talking to Jessica John. Super excited to have her. She just ran a summit called the Myrh of Flow Summit, which is super fun summit to be a part of, and we got to be super nerdy about movement and flow and pole and circus and all the things. So super excited to have her here. Also a little sneak peek, she will be a guest speaker in an event I have coming up very soon, September 25th through 28th. I will be hosting the Beginner Pole Dancer Summit, and she's going to be talking about ungluing your cranky hips. So very excited to talk to. And I'm going to go ahead and bring her on right now. If you have any questions about all the mobility things, then she is an expert on that. Hi, Jessica. How you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are
I'm
you?
good. I know you're getting off of a big trip, so welcome home.
Thank you. I'm still a little jet lagged, I won't lie.
I bet. Yes, so I was just talking about how you just hosted the Myrh of Flow Summit. I would love to kind of hear your journey through finding pole, finding circus, and then how you got this bug to dive deeper and deeper into quality of movement.
Yeah, wow, for me circus was like this complete deviation from a path that I thought I was on. I thought that I had this career that, you know, everything was going in a certain direction. And then I found aerial and I found circus and took this big pivot in my life. Um, and I don't think like it's one of those things that you just could have never predicted because in a sense it was very, very random. Like I walked past a flying trapeze rig um, and thought, I don't want to do that thing really, really high up in the air, but I want to do something like it and signed up for a class and then was just totally hooked. And I'm sure that many people have similar stories.
You're like, I don't want to do that thing really high up in the air, but I want to do it.
Yeah, right, exactly. I don't want to do that, but I kind of do. But I'll try this other thing instead.
Yeah, I love it. No, and that kind of reminds me of like how coming to pole for the first time, you walk in, you see pole and you go, oh, well, I don't think I want to do all that. But yeah, maybe I'll take like that little spin or something down at the bottom. And then look what happens.
You get sucked in to all the things. So I got really, really sucked into aerial, and I started taking like multiple classes per week, and it just so happens that one of the first, well, the first coach that I ever worked with also taught silks at a pole studio. So from the beginning, I was always doing aerial very adjacent to pole, meaning like the next door over.
Yeah.
And even as I started teaching, I would say that most of my clients also did pole. And it wasn't for me until I moved out of the country for my day job that I started actually doing pole myself because I wasn't quite sure if I was going to be able to have access to, points to hang things from the air. And so I bought a pole and brought it with me and spent the time that I was in Europe doing pole instead of aerial because it was kind of my only choice at the time. And came back from that experience, not just more interested in pole, but also recognizing that this passion that I had found, um, it wasn't going to work if I still had my day job because it would continue to pull me away to do things where I wouldn't have access to what I needed, not just to like continue to improve my skills, but like continue to be a happy, healthy, functioning human being.
Yeah.
So I made a big switch.
Yeah. So you really immersed yourself in that and started, I mean, how did you come into this place where you were starting to offer these tools and for aerialists and pole dancers. And so what was that kind of deep dive?
Yeah, so I was based in DC, and at the time there just really weren't a lot of resources. Um, there weren't a lot of people teaching aerial, and then if you wanted something different, if things weren't quite working for your body, you were kind of SOL, right? You had to figure it out yourself. You had to travel to find coaches that worked for you. And personally, I came from a background of growing up in a gym. My parents owned a health club growing up. I worked the front desk. And so there was always this kind of weird mismatch when I would go and take aerial classes and learn things, but also recognize I didn't have the strength to actually do what I wanted to be able to do. And the classes weren't teaching me how to go from point A to point B, but I knew that there were ways to train for that because I'd grown up around it most of my life. So I realized that, there was a lot more that could be doing, people could be doing, there's a lot more that coaches could be doing. And that, you know, if you build it, will come. If you want to see something in the community, you just have to create it yourself. So that's when I started offering programs to help people kind of progressively work toward their goals. And right before the pandemic, I had moved across the country to kind of, I don't know, get outside the bubble that was Washington, D.C., and be in spaces where I could be more creative and more fulfilled in the art of what we do. And then the pandemic happened, and I was kind of in this position where I was already offering some things, especially for former clients from DC. And everything exploded, just expanded everything big time.
Yeah, I know the pandemic, I feel like it always is such um, a major, part of the conversation. And when it comes to people who offer coaching and programs online, it was like there was before the pandemic and then there was after the pandemic, like
Yeah.
that's when the mind shift happened for so many people that said, okay, this is going to be my first kind of deep dive into trying to bring my knowledge to um, a greater amount of people. What was so interesting, it was all out of pure survival during the pandemic. Like, okay, now I can't give all of the tools and all the stuff that I want to share with everyone. I can't give it to them because I can't come to the studio anymore. So what are we going to do? And so you just build these things to survive. And then, wow,
I
look,
I think
whole programs and communities built because of that,
yeah, I think for me, I was already offering things, but I was only offering them to people who had worked with me first in person. That's the difference. Suddenly there were all of these people that had never worked with me before that were just eager for something, and I was already in the
So
space.
what's your
Um,
favorite kind of stuff? Like, what, okay, how about this? What did
mhm.
you start with? What did you start with offering? And then in turn turned into the favorite stuff that you loved to continue to teach and give?
Yeah, I had already had a membership. And so I was already doing kind of that typical tutorial type content on the apparatuses that I performed on. And then also offering mobility classes as well online. And then quickly after that, started writing programs mostly for professionals that suddenly were homebound and didn't know what to do to stay in shape for the, the gig that was on the horizon. Didn't know it was like years on the horizon, but at the moment, how do I stay in shape so that in 3 months I can pick things back up when I don't have my apparatus? And so that was like the beginnings of what became my signature program, the Conclave, which is getting ready to launch next week. In
So I want
cycle 8.
to give it to me.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, the Conclave is my 3-month custom coaching program. So I get all up in your movement history, your goals, looking at the techniques that you want to achieve and exactly what's holding you back to get there, strength, mobility, technique. And I think there's also this like healthy dose of um, making sure you're thinking past that 3-month time frame, which means that yes, we all have goals, but at least for me, I'm a 47-year-old aerialist, and I'm always thinking big picture that, 5 years from now, how do you want to feel in your body? What do you actually want this pursuit to serve in your life? You want it to enrich your life, and it makes you feel like crap all the time, that's not going to do it. So the Conclave is also about really honing your technique in a way that it's going to make you more efficient and bring about more longevity for doing this thing we love for a lot longer. So it's a 3-month container, custom programming, and technical coaching for me.
I love that so much. Yes, I mean, that's also something for me that has changed so much over, the evolution of my career. Now at 42 years old, yes, I'm not thinking the way that I used to think about my training 10 years ago. I'm thinking, okay, well, what's sustainable here? What is bringing me joy? Where can I put my focuses? How can I have balance in my life? I think it's wonderful that there's a lot of people looking for that kind of content right now.
Yes.
Us that are
Yes.
to that age where we start thinking about these things. And I feel like there is a big community in pole where that we really are looking at that horizon and looking and kind of trying to see what's next for us.
Yeah, and part of that is just simply because things have been around long enough, training in a certain way, for us to acknowledge that the way that we have been doing it is not the best. Right, we have like experienced the toll that it's taken on our bodies, and can offer wisdom to others that it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah,
We didn't know any better, but now we do, so we can do things better.
the trial and error of that's not going to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
We're going to go for plan B here. I love that. Okay, so now with knowing that there's that kind of well-roundedness of in your coaching stuff, the mindset, but also the mobility stuff, the strength, the flexibility. So curious. Tell me about what happened in your brain to want to then host the Myth of, because I just love this stuff. So like, where did it go? Where was the connection to what you were doing to wanting to focus in that particular?
Yeah, I think that in doing multiple cycles of technical coaching, doing tutorials, again, very technique focused, and doing all of that online, there was what I saw as this kind of missing link in people's practices, where they thought, oh, well, if I work really hard to get the skills, if I get stronger, if I get more mobile, then I will be able to move the way that I want to move. And then I will feel the way that I want to feel. And neither of those things happen, right? Because unless you train in a way that is joyful, unless you train to move the way you want to move, you're never going to have those things. You're simply going to get burnt out from training really hard for a bunch of tricks that you're not actually sure why you want the tricks, except for someone else you know is doing it and it looks cool, right? And so joy and fulfillment from this practice is why I started. And I think it's why most people start, but people get lost along the way. Because, we, I don't know if it's probably more an American thing than other parts of the world. I will say that. But there's this rush to turn everything we love into some sort of commodity, right? That everything turns into a side hustle. And I started out doing aerial because I loved doing it. And then suddenly I was teaching because it made it easier to train more if I taught because I had access to space. And then I got good at teaching and I kept doing it. And it just kind of goes down this little path. And next thing you know, you're training like an elite athlete, but maybe you never had that intention to be an elite athlete. Maybe you just wanted to do it because you loved it. So how do we get back to that place? If you want to be an elite athlete, that's amazing and all power to you. But most people who start this don't. And if you take the joy out of it, what are you left with? And that's really where the Flow Summit came into play. Like, how do you bridge this gap for people so that they understand that, you can structure a practice in a way that promotes more joy?
Yes, yes. That was a lot of fun. And there were so many great speakers at that event. Actually, one of my favorite um, presentations was the one that you did. Can you, I just really loved kind of like what you went over in your personal presentation in that summit. What was it called again?
Yeah, suddenly I'm like, wait a minute, what did I
You did,
talk about?
but it really broke down understanding giving your body understanding of all the flossing in betweens and all.
Yeah.
When was that? I mean, maybe we don't know the name, but
Yeah. It's funny how, like, I swear I hosted a summit, it happened, but it's like, whoo,
that's scary, baby.
blackout,
Woo!
blackout.
A lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the gist of that session was how do all of the different facets of your training fit together to create the the movement that you're really after, um, and how do you train for movement style expression, whatever it is. How do you integrate those things into your everyday training in a way that is sort of seamless? Because if you don't train those things, they don't happen. So if what you want is to be a fluid, ooey gooey sort of mover, and all you're doing is training sets and reps in the gym and in mobility classes where you're doing a lot of passive stretching or, isometric holds, for example, that neither of those things are going to translate to that ooey gooey movement style. So it broke apart, like, what are all of the individual components of being the type of mover that you want to be, and showing you how you can actually train all of those individual things.
I love that so much. It's just the intentionality and like really really understanding that there are choices. Like you cannot be everything. But if you have the intentionality of this is what I want to be very clearly, this is what I want, this is how I want to move, then you want to, then other things are going to have to fall away for you to focus in that direction. And then there's the how to. Okay, so this is what I want to move, and now what are the steps to get to where I want to get? Because nobody can be all the movers.
Yeah, and there, I mean, it's all trade-offs, right? Whether it's the kind of big trade-offs of like, do I want to train or do I want to spend more time with my family?
They're all is, yeah.
But there
They're
are
all
also the trade-offs of, okay, do I really want this bendy skill when I'm not a very bendy person? Because that means I'm not saying you can't do it, but you might have to work really, really hard and spend a lot of your time in flexibility training that you can't spend working on movement style or strength type tricks or whatever it is. And, we don't have to make big decisions necessarily about how we want to move long term, and stick to it on the plan all the time, but just recognizing that we can't do it all. We have to make some choices at least for periods of time. And that if we do that, then we're actually going to make much more progress, sometimes on things we didn't even realize were related.
yes. Yeah, if you kind of follow that through line, then you never know what kind of other things you'll be opening up and repertoire you're opening up along the
Yeah.
way. But start with not just doing generally all the things, but doing the thing that you want, going towards the direction you
And
want. Yeah.
that's that direction you want. I mean, sometimes that's like the hardest part I find in working with people is that people don't know what they want
Yeah, yeah.
because they want everything.
Yeah. There's not enough time in the day, honey, to have everything. What do you want
Yeah.
to work on first?
Yeah.
Which is
Exactly.
which is the first one? What's the one that's most exciting right now?
Well, and that goes back to joy, right? Like, what thing really excites you? What are you going to put at the top of your priority list when you don't want to get out of bed? And, if it's something that you're not really excited about, it's going to be really hard to get in the studio. But if it's something that you're really stoked to do, then it makes it a lot easier.
So true, so true. Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You are going to be a guest in my summit coming up, the Beginner Pole Dancer Summit, September 25th through 28th. And you are doing ungluing your cranky hips without needing to stretch, without stretching.
Yes, we're going to be doing a lot of neurological sort of techniques, a little trickery, but based in science. And those are always fun because you get to see immediate transformation just in the course of a 30-minute little session. So it's fun for everyone.
Awesome. I can't wait to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And go check out Jessica's content. She's got a lot to offer everyone, and we will see you soon.
Thank you so much. Bye.